Drop shot fishing is one of the best ways to catch bass, but it can feel confusing. There are special rods, different hooks, all kinds of weights, and thousands of baits to choose from. With so many options, it's easy to think drop shot fishing is too hard. But in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to start catching fish. I'll walk through a few budget-friendly gear choices, show you how to rig it up the right way, and explain where and how to fish it so you can start catching more bass with this technique. So first, let's start with your gear. When it comes to drop shot fishing, you're going to see a ton of drop shot specific rods on the market. Like this one right here is the Element Z2 drop shot rod. I do not fish this just because it is labeled as a drop shot rod, but all you really need when you're looking for a spinning rod to fish your drop shot is something in that medium light power with a fast action. That is what I really like to use. Anything between 6 foot and 7 foot would even work. I prefer something in that longer range to be able to give me a farther cast, but use what's most comfortable with you. This one right here is a 7'1" medium light power fast action. So it's going to have a ton of bend in this rod. You can see it's very flexible, but it has a little bit of backbone to set the hook. But when you're using these tiny drop shot hooks, you don't need a lot of backbone. You actually want more tip so you can feel everything your bait is doing. And then when you actually hook up with a fish, you're not gonna pull that bait out of the fish's mouth as it gets up closer to the boat when you have these small little hooks on here. And then I pair mine up with a 2500 size Shimano Sedona. You can use whatever spinning reel you like. The most important thing is a good drag system. So if I pull this line, it's coming out super smooth every single time to make sure, again, that you're not pulling the bait out of the fish's mouth. When you get them up close, they could be gently skin hooked with this, and if they surge and you don't have a good drag system that lets that line out or has a bow in your rod, that's when you're gonna lose fish. That's really all drop shot specific rods are made to do. Flex enough so that when they pull next to the boat, they don't come off. Now, when it comes to the line I spool up on this reel, I highly recommend going with braid if you can. I use 10 to 15 pound test Suffix 832. I use the lime green color so I can see what my bait's doing, and we'll talk about why that's important when we're actually fishing the bait here in just a second. But it basically is a strike indicator. It allows you to see what your bait's doing, where it's at in the water column. It also has a ton of sensitivity and gets a better hook set than straight fluorocarbon because you have a direct connection with your bait. So if you can go with braid and tie a fluorocarbon leader, that is the best way to do it. I use an FG knot and I tie on a fluorocarbon leader of about 10 to 15 foot. But if you don't feel comfortable tying a fluorocarbon leader on, you very easily could just use straight 8 pound test fluorocarbon on your spinning rod and fish just fine. You'll be able to do everything you need with that. So if you're comfortable with it, there is advantages to using braid, but if you do not feel comfortable and you're just learning for the first time, go with straight fluorocarbon. You will have a ton of success doing that as well. And then down at your terminal tackle here, you're going to need a hook and a weight. And I like to keep it very simple here. There are all kinds of hooks that you're gonna see out on the market, Texas rig hooks, open hooks, different shapes. I keep it very simple with the Gamakatsu split shot drop shot hook. That's the #1 hook that I use. If you're just getting into it for the first time, this is the hook you want to use. It is going to give you the best hookup ratio. It's going to fit pretty much any bait you want to throw as a drop shot bait, and it's very easy to learn with for the very beginning. Now, I do use some other hooks out there. There will be more drop shot videos coming in the future building upon these basic techniques here. We'll talk about these in the future, but for now, get a size 1 drop shot hook, the Gamakatsu split shot drop shot, and you will be able to catch a ton of fish in your local body of water using that. And then when it comes down to your weight, again, there's gonna be tungsten, there's going to be lead, there's gonna be teardrop weights, there's gonna be round weights, there's gonna be cylinder weights. Just get a regular lead sinker to start with. Don't worry about tungsten. You're gonna end up losing a lot of these, and tungsten's very expensive. I use the lead ones just to get started. And then I prefer the cylinder ones because it comes through most cover. It will come through grass, it will come through other stuff. The wider the sinker is, the more it's going to get balled up in cover, whether it's grass, sticks, whatever might be down there on the bottom. It will work better in rock, but everything else it will work less in. So that is why I prefer the standard cylinder weight, and I use a 3/16 or a 1/4 ounce. There's a ton of sizes, and it's very specific sometimes on what size you're using, whether you're in deeper water, shallower water. You can get very specific with that, but again, if you're trying to just start this for the first time, buy a few packs of items and a spinning rod and get started, a 3/16 or a 1/4 ounce will do just fine. For most ponds, creeks, rivers, lakes, all across the United States, a 3/16 is probably going to get it done, and if you live around some deeper water, a 1/4 ounce would probably be a little bit better, but 3/16 will get you started pretty much everywhere you need to fish. And lastly, you gotta choose a bait to put on your drop shot. Now there are thousands of options for baits out there on the market. I'm just going to give you a couple of my quick favorites here to not overwhelm your bait selection. A lot of times it's more important where you're actually putting the bait and less about what you have on the end of your hook to a degree. Now, there are different options. You can drop shot literally anything. I've drop shot lizards and beavers before on a different technique entirely, but in general, when you're fishing with a finesse drop shot like this, you're gonna use small minnow baits, small drop shot style baits, or like small little straight tail worms. Now I'm gonna eliminate the straight tail worms on this, but if you want to get one, I would highly recommend the 4.5 inch robo worm to use on this technique. But if I'm looking at a drop shot bait profile, there's really two that I go for. What I call a standard drop shot bait is like a Berkeley flatworm or the KVD Dream Shot. The Berkeley flatworm, you can never beat this thing. It is just a small 3.5, 4 inch profile, and it just looks like a little worm. It could look like a little bait fish. It could look like anything you have down there. Pick a color that looks like something that you have down there, whether it's perch, whether it's minnows, whether it's crawfish and little bugs on the bottom. Like the green pumpkin one can mimic a bunch of little bugs that are on the bottom. Or you have fish that are feeding on bait fish. And when they're feeding on bait fish, I like to go with something like the scented jerk shads. Again, it's a 3.5 to 4 inch bait, and it's just a minnow imitating bait. So look for something in that 3.5 to 4 inch size that mimics the exact forage that you have down there on the bottom. Now, all this gear will be linked in the description below if you wanna check out step-by-step everything you need down there, or you might be looking through the tackle you already have. Straight tail worms or a standard drop shot 3.5 to 4 inch bait is what you're looking for to nose hook onto this rig. Now, we're gonna walk you through how to rig this up real quick, and then we're gonna go out on the water and actually fish with it. And it's a very simple way to rig this thing up. Basically, I've already tied my leader on here. I used my FG knot. I have my 10-foot section here, and I'm going to take my size 1 drop shot hook. I'm gonna go straight through the face of the hook. You want it pointing upwards. Then I'm gonna come back around and I'm gonna throw the line back through. I tie Palomar knot. You can use whatever knot you like, but the key here, your loop is on this side, and your main line and your tag end are over here. You want to create a tag end coming off of here that's probably 12 to 18 inches long, and then you're going to tie your Palomar knot. You want to leave a really long tag end because that's how you're gonna create the drop shot. So you're gonna run your Palomar over. I'm gonna wet my line so that I don't burn it, and then I'm going to pull that tight. Now, if I hold this, the hook does kind of stick out a little bit, but sometimes it can flip over depending upon how you tied your knot. The last thing you have to do to get your hook to stand out straight is take your tag end and go straight through the face of the hook again, like this. When you pull this all the way down, it will keep your hook straight out on your hook, on your line all of the time when your bait is down there, to hold it out horizontal. And then the last thing you have to do to finish up your drop shot is to take your weight. It'll have a little clip on here. I like to put it in where I want it here. So I got about an 18-inch leader hook down to my leader. That might be 12, but close enough. I'll clip it in, and then I will tie 2 overhand knots, just a little loop right over the overhand here. 1 loop and a 2nd loop. And the reason I do this is a lot of times when those fish get hooked, they'll come up and jump and they'll throw your weight around. And if it's just clipped on there, that force will just sling your weight off and you'll go through a ton of these. If you tie those 2 overhand knots on, it will stay on a lot better. But if you were to get snagged on the bottom with your weight, the key is, the reason the clips are on there is that your weight will break off before you lose your hook and your bait. So if this still snags the bottom, a Palomar knot is much stronger than 2 overhand knots. So when you pull, it will break the weight off and you'll bring back all of this and be able to just tie a new weight on and get back to fishing. Now we're gonna use our Berkeley flatworm today. I got a fresh pack just for you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up and grab our flatworm. And there's a flat side and a rounded side. I like to put the flat side down. I don't know that there's a correct way. You can do it whichever way you like, but I like to put the flat side down. I'm going to take the hook and go right in the belly of the bait, about 1 segment or 2 segments back on the head, and then pop it right out the top. and nose hook it just like that. Now, the deeper you get in here, if you come back 3 segments, 4 segments, 5 segments, you're going to get way more line twist. It's gonna start rotating in the water, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. The closer you can keep it to the front, the more natural it's going to flow through the water, but it'll also come off easier. So you don't wanna just gently skin hook it right on the front, but you also don't want to bury that hook all the way back into the bait and end up getting a bunch of line twists that way. But now, we have our drop shot all rigged up and ready to go. So let's head out on the water and show you where and how to fish it to catch the most fish. And before we get to fishing the bait, if you could head down below and hit the subscribe button. Only 14% of you that watch the channel are actually subscribed, and I'm trying to reach that 100,000 subscriber mark by the end of the year. So if you could help me out with that, that would be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get all this simple drop shot gear out on the water and show you how to put it to use. So now that we're all rigged and ready to go, where do you want to fish this to have the most amount of success with the drop shot? The short answer is everywhere. The drop shot catches fish literally on anything, but if we want to be more specific, the drop shot really excels when the fish are finicky and tough to bite. Unfortunately, today's the only day that I had to film this video, and while they'll still bite when they're biting other baits, today is not the ideal day for fishing a drop shot. We have overcast conditions, we have a little bit of wind, we have conditions that are very productive for moving baits. But when you have those days that are flat, calm, sunny conditions, the fish really don't want to bite anything, that's when I'm pulling out a drop shot and I'm going to catch some fish with it. And it will work in the most pressured fisheries. I've fished some of the toughest ponds I've ever fished by my house, and a drop shot will always pull through and getting me a couple fish on the bank. So it's a very effective bait for tough, pressured days. Then when you actually want to choose where to fish it, it will work in a variety of different conditions. So we have logs up on the bank next to us here. You could work it around these logs. Now, it won't go directly through it. You can't flip it in there like a jig, but you could fish this log and fish the outsides of it and get fish to kind of come away from that log to go bite your bait. We also have some grass out here scattered along this bank, and it's not super heavy grass. So you can actually fish this through that as well. The drop shot is surprisingly weedless, and it's one of my favorite pond baits because oftentimes what'll happen is you'll get that black slime that grows on the bottom of the pond. Your weight will catch in all of that, and your bait sits clean and free up above the moss on the bottom, perfect for a fish to come along and bite it. It never gets gummed up like a Texas rig or something like that. And lastly, any type of hard structure the drop shot will work on as well. So we'll have bridge pilings, we have like these barge mooring buoys. It will work against this as well, or even offshore stuff like rock piles, points, even some current breaks we might hit today. Any of that submerged stuff as well. It'll even work through that as well. It's really an all-terrain vehicle for all kinds of fishing you want to do. As long as the fish are in a finicky mood, it's going to get you more bites. It's just a confidence bait for me, and once you learn to master this technique, it will become a confidence bait for you as well to ensure that you can catch the most fish when you're out there fishing. Now that we have everything ready to go, let's go through how to fish this bait, and then we'll put it all together and try and catch some fish with it. So when I'm fishing this bait, really what I want to do is pick my target. So if I want to throw it to this, I want to get my bait as close as I can. That's a big key because these fish aren't going to chase very far for it. So you need to put it in front of their face and shake it in place to get them to bite it. Now there's 2 retrieves you can do. I will throw it up next to this piece of cover that I want to fish. I will let it sink all the way down to the bottom, and this is where this high vis line comes in. I can watch it pull the line all the way out, and then it will lay slack on the water and come back to me when I know my bait is on the bottom. Now here's where you can begin your 2 different retrieves once you're on the bottom. The first one is more for when the fish are a little bit more cooperative. I'm gonna reel up till I'm tight with that bait, and I'm just gonna shake it like this in place. So I'll be tight with the bait and just kind of shake it on the bottom. Oh, I got one. No way. That was awesome. The drop shot works. Come here, buddy. He's not huge, but we got one. Drop shot right in his mouth. And you can see, let me flip this over here. These hooks get them very well. Right behind the jawbone there. You can go ahead and just pop this guy off and you're good to go. Nice. A little bass on the drop shot, not a giant one, but we're fishing the Pittsburgh rivers, so that's a pretty good fish for down here. we're gonna get this guy back in the water and we'll talk about those 2 retrieves real quick. All right, so then to fix up your drop shot, he kind of actually didn't mess it up. Sometimes the little ones will mess your bait up a lot, but all you gotta do is just poke it right back through the nose where you had it and you're good to go. So let's walk through these 2 retrieves again. The first one is gonna be shaking it. So we're gonna throw it back out where we want it. If I catch another one, this is gonna be amazing, and the drop shot is the world's greatest bait that's ever existed. But you're gonna reel up once you're tight on the bottom, and you're just gonna kind of hop it in place. And I'm not really moving the weight, I'm just shaking the slack in my line. So I'm pulling tight with the bait and just shaking it back and forth soft. And it's just causing that bait to undulate in the water like this in front of a fish. If they're really finicky and don't wanna bite, you can just shake it in front of them like this, and sometimes that will trick them into biting. And you can just work it in that key piece of cover. That's why you have to cast it really close to the cover. You have to have this thing right in front of these fish to be able to have this technique work where you're just shaking it like this. So that's one way to do it, but my favorite way to do it, especially when they're really tough biting, I found the more pressured and tough biting they are, this technique works better, and especially when you have current like we do in the Pittsburgh rivers here. You're gonna throw your bait where you want it, just like we did. We're gonna let this sink all the way to the bottom, so I'm watching my line, I see it going out, it just stopped, it hit the bottom, and I'm on the bottom. I'm gonna reel up until I'm tight with it, and all I'm going to do is just slowly drag it forward. I take my hand off the reel, I don't shake it, and I just feel it come over every rock down there. And then I'll reel up my slack again, and then I'll just slowly pull it forward. And I can just feel it coming over every rock down there. Whether you're fishing rocks, grass, whatever you're fishing, you can feel it come through all that cover, and you just slowly pull it through everything down there. And that is gonna get you way more bites than shaking it or making it do erratic action. These fish don't want a meal, they don't want to chase. So if you fish something very slowly and just keep it in front of them, most of the time you're gonna get them to bite. So I just slowly drag it down this current break, and I'll just slowly work it all the way back to the boat, and that's it. It's super simple. You literally just drag it on the bottom. You might get hung up here and there, but if you have the right weight size, that 3/16 or 1/4 ounce, and you pull it slow enough on the bottom, like you can see that got hung up just a little bit, pop it right over, and it keeps on going. So it's that simple to retrieve a drop shot. We already caught one, but let's put this all together and let's catch us some more. Let's see how effective the drop shot can be and put a couple fish in the boat. There we go. Oh my. The drop shot catches fish of all sizes. Look at the size of this little dude. That's crazy. Pittsburgh River is full of these dudes. Little micro smallmouth bass like that. You catch a ton of them down here. He's so tiny, that's crazy. And while the drop shot works all over the country for any fish, any size, there are a few modifications I make to help me catch even more fish on a drop shot. And if you'd like to check that video out, it'll be linked right here, and you can hit the subscribe button down below, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, little buddy. Bloop.